You either play it or you don't.
Nice to meet you, Brooklyn.
Nice to meet you too, Ben. How are you doing today, first of all? This is my first podcast ever, also to say, so
Oh, well, I'm honored. Thank you so much for inviting me.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm great. It's roasting hot here over in the UK.
Same here.
Is it? Have you got the AC on?
Yeah, we've got the AC on for sure.
Yeah, we don't have that over here, so we just got to do with the door open.
Wow, really? You guys don't have AC over there?
No, no. Well, it's Britain, isn't it? It's either raining. It's like one extreme to the other. It's either ridiculously hot or ridiculously cold and wet.
Wow,
You know?
weird.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I guess I'll just start by just saying like how I found you, you know?
Sure.
I was on Clubhouse and I heard you in a room and then I clicked your profile and then I listened to all your podcasts. They're so incredible. And yeah, and then I was just like, wow, it'd be really cool to have a conversation with you. I feel like where you're the way that you process everything is really, really cool. How did you get started? Like in being a soul coach? Like that's just so
Wow. Okay. Well, interesting.
yeah.
Clubhouse. Well, that's a different story altogether. Clubhouse, isn't it? It's quite a unique place to hear people's individual perspectives, and I think from my point of view, I had to go. I put myself deep in a ditch my entire life. Okay, I went through all the extremities of addiction, be it drugs, alcohol, gambling, pornography, you name it. I put myself through that because I was ignorant, and been through quite a few traumas as well, some serious traumas in my life. And I think you kind of hit this tipping point where the experiences that I've had in life have been, and being able to pull myself out of that has been allowed me to be able to kind of help people, help others. So yeah, it's been one hell of a journey, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's incredible because like like I know that for me, like personally, ever since like COVID and everything happened, I've had a lot more time to myself. And in that time to myself, it almost felt like everything outside of me was still going, you know, at the regular speed that life is, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but 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 kind of like encompassing like the present moment, you know what I mean? Like it was just so interesting to see like how much attention I was putting outside of myself. You know, like I was paying so much attention to everything outside of myself. And then so when I came inside, and it was just like, wow, like it was very interesting. And like I just wondered, have you had those moments, like those kind of just like you realize that all of your focus, all of your attention is like in the field, kind of, you know, like you're not even inside of you don't have a sense of self, basically. I was just wondering, like, how, like, was there a moment where you were like, wow, I don't know, you know? I feel like that's the moment I have where I just say, I don't know anything, you know?
Well, no. Well, okay. Interesting. How old are you, Brooklyn?
I'm 23, I just turned 23.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, that's a really mature mindset to have. When I say mature, I don't mean that in sort of any sort of level like that, but an inner maturity to recognize that.
No, thank you.
So kudos to you. Well done. Well done. And I think out of all my clients, well, not out of all of them, but the majority of them, they get stuck in their mind. And this is kind of where we're at the moment in across the world, is that everybody's seeking knowledge. Everybody's seeking to better themselves because we're being fed so much information, right? Like secret knowledge, secret societies, third eye opening, chakra balancing, and all this other bullshit. Excuse my language, so I do swear. Is that all right?
Yeah, please.
Cool. So yeah, there's just so much going on at the moment, right? And it's all just a pile of shit, right? Now, what I always when I speak with my clients, the first thing I do is say, can you remember what it was like, what you were like as a child?
That's deep.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, look, when you came out of your mum's womb, right? You know, you didn't know anything. I didn't know anything, right?
Yeah.
But I'd run around butt naked in the garden with the hose on and the sprinklers on, running after the dogs, or playing with the cat, and it was bliss. Right, we was totally oblivious to all the responsibilities and the burdens of society that we have to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think probably the biggest part for me, the biggest full stop in this kind of awakening process that I was going through was I stopped smoking weed.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I was a wake and baker, right, for 20 years, right? And I swore by that shit, man. I'd be like getting up saying, no, I can't function without it, But when I realized that that's just another trap, right? I didn't need a joint as a kid. I didn't need any whiskey as a kid. I didn't need to gamble as a kid. It was just pure energy, right? And when we talk about energy, that's what we have. That's what makes us so special, is our soul, that energy inside that drives this body.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. Wow.
It's the, hey, I used to game as well. Okay, and there's another one. Is that gaming was a big part of my life. I loved it. I was big Call of Duty, Battlefield, you name it, I played it all.
I used to a little bit too, but my games are, you probably don't even know my games. They're silly.
Well, go on, try me.
Okay, so I used to play this game called Blinks, and it was like on Xbox. It was just like the very first Xbox it came out on, and like Mario Kart. And I used to play Left 4 Dead. I used to love Left 4 Dead. Do you know that game? It's a zombie game. Yeah. But they're all corny. Like, it's like, no one really plays them, but they're fun.
Well, it's part of the process, I think, and do you know what? Another big part of the awakening for me was realizing that I was ADHD.
Wow.
I was undiagnosed. Now, I'm an 80s kid. I'm 39. Okay, so I kind of missed that part of the diagnosis of being ADHD.
Yeah.
So when I actually realized that why I'm going out gambling, why I'm taking drugs, why I'm doing this was actually to filter my mind. On top of that, being an empath as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably going through so much. Whoa. That's
you know what? It's not just me, Brooklyn. I can tell you're an empath, right? I can tell that already. And the energy that you give off, right, is very soft. It's kind.
Thank you.
And no, it's true. And unfortunately, because of the brutality of society, we toughen our shell up, right, to adapt to be accepted by society.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think kind of unzipping that kind of facade, and just being me at the core, which is what I try and help people to do, is get back to their inner child.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that was incredible. So, okay, so so what I decided, the way that I did describe what you were saying, like lately I've been thinking about the mind and anxiety, and just like, because when I, in the beginning of, basically like the beginning of COVID, this is like, I feel like I've been waiting for this time probably for much longer than I know, because I would have never even stopped, had this not happened. So, but yeah, anxiety was like pretty rough towards the beginning. But it's obviously gotten a lot. My mind is very clear now. But one thing I've been thinking about is like, okay, what is anxiety? And I was thinking, like, would you say that the noise of the mind is like a happening? Like, how like, if we were to be quiet right now, you could like hear the birds if you were here, or you could hear just like the natural of what's happening outside of us,
Yeah.
Do you think that our thoughts are just happenings? Like, do you think that if if returning back to self through all that, that work, and it being a clear reality that, like, okay, like, you don't have to react to your thoughts, you can just allow them to be and you can just listen to them, and you can let
Yeah.
your mind be and think what it wants to think. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I think let's just go back quickly to the anxiety part. Okay. Now, a lot of people, empaths especially, become anxious. They then go to drugs, to weed. They become self-isolated. They kind of stay in their room, or they go with their friends. They find their comfort zone. And I understand that because I've been there. But the anxiety part, 80% of our brain cells are located in our stomach, in
Yeah,
our
I
gut.
heard you say that, and that was like crazy to hear outside, like, whoa, that's crazy. I knew it, but the way that you said it, that's cool. Sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
yeah, but I mean, we didn't know this, right? So what we've got to, I think when people start to realize that we process in more ways than just the five senses, right? I think it was about 26 senses altogether that we've got as humans.
I didn't know 26. Wow.
I might be wrong. It might be it's either 17. I don't know why. It's a really bizarre number. It's either 17 or 26. But we're only told of the five, right? So when you kind of start realizing that you're processing information, right, through the airwaves. Okay, now we're bioelectromagnetic beings. Yeah. And information gets passed through the air, through our field, right? And then it has an effect on us. So that anxiety that we're feeling, you could be with a friend sitting at a bus stop, okay? And you could just feel something maybe coming off it, even though she hasn't said it to you. And then all of a sudden you feel really anxious and you're like, where the fuck did that come from? Right? But actually, maybe your friend is hiding something, not from you, but something's happened to them that morning. Maybe their boyfriend's hit them, or maybe they're pregnant, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I always take it back to birds. Like when birds are sitting on a telephone wire, right? And they say they don't talk, but yet they know what they're doing. So they're always taking information from each other. So they don't go like, "Hey Frank, should we go to Antarctica this season?" Or anything like that, or should we go to South America? They just do it because they know, and that information is passed down the line through their auric field.
Yeah. Okay. And which makes complete sense. And okay, so like, do you think that? So like, that just sounds like there's a divine order, regardless. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you don't even have to think about it. It's going to happen because like I like sometimes, like, like if you're outside, you just like watch the birds or whatever, and it's true. Like they are being. You know what I mean? Like they're just in the moment. They're present. And they're being. And I feel like human beings, we have a divine like order as well, and I feel like we have a destination too, but whether we get there or not is up to us, or we get there regardless, and it's just up to you to bring the human up with you. You know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes people, they express themselves like how our natural being wants to, but then they don't know how to bring up the human level, and then they just like self-deteriorate, like regardless.
Absolutely.
So it's very interesting. Like, wow. Yeah.
It is. It really is. Now, I think it's coming down to probably beliefs. And I just realized it didn't actually answer your question that you asked me before about thoughts. Right?
Okay.
Okay. So it kind of blends in both of them together. So your thoughts and your beliefs, okay, they kind of intertwine. And it's down to what people believe. Okay. So many people will believe in Jesus coming down on a cloud. Many people will believe aliens coming down in spaceships. Many people believe that there's millions of different beliefs, right? And that's what divides us as humanity, right? Now you have a soul, I have a soul. I say have, you are a soul, I am a soul, right? That is what connects us. Right, so everything physical, and going back to your very first point about everything being external, external this, external that, we've been raised to look at an external savior, right? And the reality is that we are our saviors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a really difficult time, because the battle of the mind at the moment is where people are going off and really believing about the physical, right? Because everybody fundamentally is scared of death, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we don't know what happens, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Now, being a medium as well, when you are able to communicate with the dead, right, you know that actually death is an illusion, right? Death is gone.
That's deep. I was gonna ask you about that actually, but I don't want to interrupt you because I was gonna. It sounded good. What you're gonna say?
That's okay. I wouldn't have brought it up if I hadn't have known.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay.
No, but that's just really interesting that you said that, because I feel like I've been thinking myself. Okay, like what is death? What's a transition? And then what's the other one? Death, transition. I hope that all comes to me. But it's like the three kind of major things it feels like. But those other two don't, they kind of get clouded by death. Like, I feel like I am not even remotely the same person that I was like a year and a half ago, let alone like 10 years ago or 6 months ago,
Yeah.
And so is it natural for us to always be the same?
No. I mean, okay, you've got your genetic qualities, right?
Yeah.
Your DNA memories, which are residual and they stay with you. You've got your family traits, so how mum and dad were with you, so you kind of pick up how those societal behaviors. But really, anybody's got the ability to change. I'm a living testament to it. I was the opposite, absolute polar opposite of what I am now.
Wow.
Yeah. And anybody's got that ability to change. And just quickly touching on the death bit, is that if you look at society, look at how we've been programmed through TV, films, YouTube, you name it, right? It's horror films, right? You see somebody getting decapitated, when oh God, I really don't want to die like that. Or Jaws, I don't want to get eaten by a great white shark.
Yeah.
It's really it's crazy shit. But what it's doing, it's creating this fear within the mind, within the psyche of fearing death.
Yeah.
Right now, for example, in Africa, right, they celebrate when somebody dies. The tribes in Africa, they celebrate because they've made their way to the afterlife.
Yeah.
And really, if you want to break it down to a to the science of it, I don't like to say science, but I suppose that's what it is. But really, we're divided by light, right? We work within a certain spectrum of light. Okay, so we can't see ultraviolet, we can't see infrared. Okay, we only operate this much.
There's so much that we can't see. That's so crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
So all it is like when we move, when the soul departs the body, it goes into this full spectrum. As opposed to this, we see the whole.
Okay. I remember the third thing I was going to say with you
Go
saying.
for it.
Okay, so death, transition, and a loss of energy. I think that they're all three different, and I don't think that death means the other ones. This is what I think. I think that in the experience that we have, the reality that we're in right now, a lot of things probably look so gruesome. Like the way that people die sometimes, it looks so terrifying. But I think that in the broader scale, like in the macro, they probably had to go that way. Like there's probably like a karmic type of thing, or you're just running so busy, and then you're in the car, you're in a plane, you're going, you're going, you're going. You know, like I just feel like there's probably there's like probably like karmic understandings behind like every kind of tragic like death. You know, like it feels like death. You know, but is it a loss of energy? Because like I feel like sometimes people just don't have the energy to keep going. You know.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Now, I'm going to throw a curveball right at you.
Yeah, please.
Okay, and this will make you question karma.
Okay.
And that is, okay, I'm here to help people destroy this illusion that we... Now, I used to believe in karma, dharma, karma, you name it, universal laws. Okay, so you're aware of, obviously, all the adrenochrome, all the stuff with the children.
Adrenochrome? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, okay. I won't go into that. Okay, I won't go into that.
I'll look
Okay,
into it, though.
Yeah, it's a huge other subject. Okay, but let's take it back to something a bit more basic. So a child is abused. Okay, do you think that child has a karma from a past life, or do you think it's just abuse? Because that child cannot speak for itself.
Yeah. I think that, and that's one thing I've been thinking about too, is I think that we come into the physical with past selves, or, well, we're all self, you know? So we come in with an understanding that through this experience, I'm meant to reflect, hopefully, and learn the lesson from it. So in that moment, we usually are not capable to like reflect in the midst of like all the trauma that's probably going on, you know? But
sure.
But yeah, no, I wouldn't. I think that we are traveling with an energy, you know?
Yeah.
Karma is such a broad. It's like it's one of those terms where it can get distorted because everyone's kind of using it in their own way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and okay, so again, what I'll probably refer you back to is you as a child. Okay, now, my understanding is that we're born, we come into this world, and then all of a sudden, if we've got a really comfortable childhood where we don't need anything, our parents look after us, we don't experience that much trauma, great. But then we kind of get thrust into mortgages, into loans, into, going to high school, college, getting a degree and playing by the system. But what if none of that existed? What if trauma didn't exist? What if we never had to evolve? What if we were born perfect, which we were, but society fucked us up?
Yeah, no, that is. I think I believe in what you just said, for sure. Yeah.
I saw your eyes glisten then as well. Yeah.
You come in most likely having to like overcome who's around you, you know? And sometimes you never even do it. Sometimes it just takes over. But yeah, that's deep.
It is. And I'm going to put my neck on the chopping board and say that's the truth. Yeah. That is absolute truth. Now, some people want to, if they want to go biblical. Now, I'm not atheist. I believe there is a source. Right? I don't believe God called himself God. That's just mankind's terminology for it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
But the divine bit that you were talking about earlier is your soul, is you, your soul, is me, my soul. So we are all part of that source energy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay.
So now I'm just the Bible bit. Do you remember when Adam and Eve, I say remember like we were there. Yeah, that's probably the snake, but Adam and Eve time, right? Do you remember when God said, don't you dare eat those apples from that tree because it will give you knowledge?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Now there's a reason for that. It's because, right, we're tapping into thoughts, and again, probably covering what you said earlier about the thoughts, is that we're tapping into getting information from something which is artificial. Okay, so rather than actually living and being and just how it should have been, paradise. Okay, the Adam and Eve thing is, it depicts mankind's thirst for knowledge, right? Now that knowledge might all be detrimental to us. Now, people will argue and say, well, how's that the case? We're living in a beautiful house, we've got a fancy car, we've got a great job, and then on the other end of the scale, you've got people in the slums living in a cardboard box, right? So the point being is, we only know what we know. So, okay, I know that's a window because that's what I've been told, right? But what happens if there's more to life than we actually know?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I understand what you said. I'm not sure if you like have any other religions, but like that's one reason why I like the idea of just understanding as many as I can and then deciding what I would like to believe, because anything man-made, is man-made, like, but what was happening before, like, and so religion is man-made. But not to knock religion though, because religion, I think that is very necessary and it's a part of the process. But yeah, that's deep. That's cool. Wow.
Okay, here's another curveball. If you look at ancient civilizations and what we've been told, right, not one ancient civilization talks about angels.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's so what do you think that there are like guides per every human being?
Absolutely. But under no illusion that everybody has guides, and those guides will be previous sort of family members that have passed away, different generational family members. They will be people that we've met in past lives. They will be people from centuries ago.
That's intense.
You see, everybody thinks this whole spiritual realm is, it's got people from, the Pleiades or Andromeda or all this shit, right? And the reality is that we've never actually been outside of the dome of Earth. We can only play with what we know, right? And what we know down here is that there's been millennia of people who have died.
Yeah.
Right? We know that because look at the world wars, look at, people die. Right. So they are in that different spectrum of light that we're talking about.
Deep. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about time?
Oh, time.
Yeah.
It is a control mechanism.
Deep.
Yeah. How about you? What do you think?
Well, just in the past year and a half, I just realized like, okay, there's no way, respect to the calendar and the system that we have, but I realized that, okay, I know that I today is not what I'm doing today. Well, what I did last week today isn't what I'm doing today. So I know that I'm going forward, but I think that you can like cut out space and time. I think that's the direction that we're going, because I think that, like, for example, if people they want to manifest something, right, and they go hard at it and they put their whole body through time, and they eventually achieve it, but it took them like 20 years or 30 years, or they're just like completely aged, like, like completely aged.
Yeah.
But that's if you're doing it all, if you're doing it by yourself, like, but I feel like just the focus and being in the present moment, you can cut out the space and time, because everything that I see for, like, the game of it and everything, I realize that it's gonna happen. It's here, it's already here. It's just a matter
Yeah,
it's just a matter of me moving into it. So it was just interesting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right. And look, if we didn't have clocks, if we didn't have Big Ben, excuse the pun, if we didn't have calendars, we'd be oblivious to it.
That's crazy. That's so crazy to think about, because that's what we run on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, if you look at it, it's all roads lead back to Rome. Now, Jesus Christ was, now this is my belief, Jesus was created, I believe, as a control mechanism to always make people feel that they're not good enough. Okay, so right, you can only get to heaven through me. You can only get to the Father through me. You have to be like this. Turn the other cheek. All these crazy teachings, right, which essentially make you inept, right? So you're kind of like, so if somebody came up to you and slapped you, would you turn the other cheek, or would you punch them back?
I don't even know. I'm probably shocked. Like, what?
Yeah, right. It's a hypothetical thing, right? But
Yeah.
the reality of it is that if everybody was to be right, do what Jesus said, right, we'd have a world full of placid people, right, that would be like wet lettuces. Now, I'm not saying go out, hunt and beat people up, far from it. But when it comes to defending your energy and defending yourself, you have to do that. Everybody has to do that. Otherwise, you're going to become subservient. You're going to become a slave to this whole crazy idealism that we've got to love thy neighbor. If my neighbor's an arsehole, I'm not going to go out there and have a cup of tea with him.
Yeah. 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 No, I understand where you're coming from, because just the Western idea of Christianity and Jesus, it just I think it plays in that idea of being separate. You know what I mean? Like the ego and self, like I'm separate from, and like that's just not the case, because you're connected, and like when you separate yourself, then you make Jesus the object to get to. You know what I mean? Like I'm separate from, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, because they do a lot of Western, like, they do play on that. They do. And I forget where I saw it, but I saw something, and he was saying how there's like a genome defect in particularly in Western civilization, that like derives from like Rome and that kind of area where like Christianity and everything kind of like derived from. I just thought that was really interesting, like that there would be like a genome for that. But it makes sense, because that's like an idea that's like prevalent, like sternly prevalent in those kinds of like people, So
Well,
that's cute.
you're right, and I think from now, again, it's really hard to probably not accept, but believe, because everything is indoctrination, right? We live in a world of Chinese whispers, where because our geography teacher said that bit over there is, again, we've accepted it. So we're generation after generation after generation of accepting facts. But what do we really know? And going on to the Christianity bit is that, from what I've seen and researched into, is that Christianity was created by Emperor Constantine, right? a Roman. Now, of course, you've got Roman Catholic, right? So you've got this religion, Roman Catholicism, and this Emperor Constantine, who creates Christianity as a new world order.
But basically underneath the Roman umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my point. Yeah. That's deep.
That's deep. And also the reason for it is to control people. So you get all these people believing Christianity and everything that's going there. You've got a load of sheep, right? And you can control people like that. You know, you get them believing all this shit. You know, you say jump, they say how high.
Because I think people really want to believe in something, you know?
Yeah.
That seems like a prevalent thing. Like, that's always been an idea, is like everyone just wants to believe in something, you know? Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think if people knew how they were, how they operated, if people knew at the core the power that they have as a soul, right, then they wouldn't need to go external looking for Jesus, looking for whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Allah, you know, whoever it is.
Yeah. And it's just crazy because it's like, it feels like sometimes you almost have to go through your own like personal, like, I have like no more water to drink, and then like, you know, like your own like deprivation to realize, okay, like something isn't working, you know? But I feel like sometimes people never get there. But I think that's because of repetition. Like, I know for me, one of the ways why I'm even like in the mindset that I am right now is in the beginning though, because I had so much time, I had time to watch a lot of things, and I'm pretty sure the repetition of hearing a lot of different things inspired me to kind of dive into my own process, you know? Because like when you're in the program and you're just the animal, like your mind is just going. So if you even were to take in a thought, it's gonna be gone, you know? So you have to just keep pounding it. And I think that's like the key for like, you know, a lot of people, because otherwise it's like a mindset, you know? Like, would you say that like those higher dimensions are like a mindset, like, you know?
Okay, now I'm going to throw another curveball at you.
Yeah.
What happens if there's no dimensions?
Oh, that's interesting. That would be deep because I just seen I've seen how there's like so many, there's supposed to be like billions of other dimensions, you know? That'd be interesting. What do you have to say about that? I want to hear.
Okay, you sure? Because I'm about to unravel my beliefs now, my truth, why I'm here. Okay, so we as a society have caught up with technology.
Yeah.
Right? We understand artificial intelligence. Okay, so what if, and I'm saying this is a what if, artificial intelligence has been here since time began. What if we've been programmed through our third eye to actually go into these dimensions, but actually they're augmented realities, right? So it's like a chamber where we go in and we see this, we see that. When we're communicating with a higher entity, whatever it might be, we are in fact communicating with an artificial intelligence which has been here way before, you know, a long time.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I mean, what I have come to call it, even though we, you know, obviously I don't have the name of it, but like source, you know, like it just feels like that's the only kind of, and that makes a lot of sense because our brain, you know, is like a supercomputer, and we do tend to have to pull things outside of us to see it, you know, to touch it and see it and then go into it and forget about it and remember it again, you know? So like that makes a lot of sense. You think about it.
Yeah. And okay, let's take this another step further. So with that spectrum of light, right? So where we're living in between here, let's say that this whole bit is being controlled by AI, the spectrum of light, right? So let's say hypothetically, right,
Yeah,
that
it's good.
everybody that's died since time began, since this whole Earth, experience, is actually trapped within this spectrum of light.
Wow. I could see that because I saw this thing before. Well, this is a really good conversation. Okay, I saw this thing before where they said that it's possible that in the future, the information of the soul is still here, and like they're saying it's possible that they can somehow transmit the information that's still here into either like a computer system or something like that, and then the person, like the human being, its consciousness could be alive again, like, and that makes a lot of sense that there is a pocket of just like every information,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, our captors, right, our jailers, let's say, the entities that are keeping us trapped within this spectrum of light, right? So they need our energy, okay? They feed off our energy through our beliefs, okay? Because everything's electromagnetic. So what I'm saying is, if they're feeding from us, right, they're feeding us information to keep us in a belief system, right? So it's like a repetitive loop which keeps feeding back on itself, right? So consciousness is manipulable, is transferable, right? It's artificial. The soul, right, is the bit which is within us that cannot be replicated by a machine.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So the consciousness up here, which everybody's talking about, because do you know what? I went through the Christ consciousness about 6 years ago, and I was all about dimensions. I was all about Egypt and past lives and all this information. I thought I was Jesus at one point, right? Mm-hmm. It really does affect you. And then I realized, holy shit, I've been infiltrated by an artificial intelligence, a signal, right, through our brainwaves, which is making me believe this or believe that. And then when I stopped smoking weed, it all made sense. The penny dropped and I was like, fuck, everything is a trap. So when we're talking about this game of life, it's probably knowing the truth, which is, okay, we're in a game.
For sure.
But it's being balanced, because we can't just opt out and just go and, we need money to survive at the moment. We need to bring food in for the family, whatever it might be. So it's kind of being balanced where you don't lose your mind, right, and go to the nut house, right? But equally, you don't give in and sell your soul like all the Illuminati,
So you just kind of coast.
Yeah.
It's possible,
I like to call it sitting on the fence.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Oh, wow. That's funky. So where do you think like ego comes into play when it comes to that? Like realizing the natural ability of the capability of you being human, and what that means, yeah. and then, but not letting that realization be the end all, like be something that just takes you over the edge, like like just realizing, okay, this is an ability, this is an ability that I have because of my energy allows for it in this physical experience, because otherwise I can imagine if someone can tap in, can consciously tap into the ability, and tap into just the energy all around us, where they could maybe get very, very, very egotistic and they could just think that they're like kings. That's probably where a lot of the kings came from, like in the past, like just going crazy because, okay, this is the ability of a human being, but you just tapped into it and now you going crazy,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. That's a good question. Definitely. I mean, ego is a necessity for everybody, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a different kind of ego. Um, so let's say, for example, you are, you believe fully in animals, in the purity of keeping animals, and no harm, right? And you've got an ego with that, which wants to protect them. Okay, now that's totally acceptable. You get that. Now, if you've got an ego, like we see, like, okay, you want to see the best pile of bullshit egos, go on TikTok, right? Like you got people flexing there, right? You got guys, right, with their tops off. You got women that are basically naked. You got guys showing off their money. You've got people showing off their bitcoins and, hey, look what I've got. All this cheesy bullshit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But who the fuck cares? You can't take that shit with you when you die, right? So really, it's like if you've got an ego to help somebody, like help somebody on a soul mission, I think that's really good. That's important because it's genuine and it's coming from the most authentic part of you. Is that, and this is why I do what I want to do. And a lot of people could say, "Oh, you've got an ego," and I'm like, "Do you know what? Yeah, I have," because the ego, like it or not, is a rudder, right, in a boat. So let's say we're cruising. Now, if we haven't got our ego to direct us, right, we're just going to be doing nothing. We're just going in a straight line drifting, right? So if people need help, you get that in that ego, and you say, "No, do you know what? I stand for helping people and not believing in all this bullshit that we see on TikTok and all these flexes, which are just doing it for what? For themselves, for their ego, to promote some false physical,
Yeah, affirmations and all that for sure.
Yeah, totally. So it's
yeah, that's so interesting. Like, because I feel like if you like if you live in a world of yes, then like usually your ego is just so like huge and no one wants to be around you. But then it's like, okay, you realize like I realize what I don't like anymore, so like I could say no, now, and then it's like your ego gets more on a healthier level. So I just like, it's interesting, like there's correlations, like all these kind of succumbing to your external, saying yes to everything. You probably have more of a chance, more like to kind of spiral in that direction and having like a big head, and or just being like super insecure, or if you just kind of like stand up for yourself, kind of. I feel like, I wonder if there's just a correlation, like just with the yeses and the nos, and learning what you don't like, and you're not supposed to like just kind of living in a world where you're doing everything,
right. Yeah,
that's deep though. It's interesting.
It is, and I think you probably hit it on the head. Is it's acceptance. The second thing you said, then, I'm sorry, my mind's just slipped me. But I think it was more from a protection point of view. So again, and this goes back to the trauma that we might have experienced, not being accepted for who we are, that childlike, authentic self. So we adapt, and then we kind of go into other people's egos. We get sucked into their vortex,
Yeah. Yeah, and what do you think that's the imagination? Do you think that like even if your intention wasn't for that to happen, that if you don't have a sense of self, you can't even grasp your own imagination, so you're in everyone else's. You're in everyone else. You're playing like a lead role in everyone's movie, and you're just doing everything. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely. Spot on.
So a sense of self. That's probably what everyone is looking for. That's it.
Yeah.
The key, huh?
It's absolutely key. It really is. And you got to know your operating system. Like, going back to what I said earlier about, are you ADHD? Why do you do the things that you do? Right. one of my favorite things to say is to my clients is, fuck your algorithm up. Like, we've all got an algorithm, right? Fuck
Yeah.
it up. Don't be a machine, be a soul, you know?
Yeah, that's what I feel like I had to do. Like it wasn't conscious, or anything, but I think I just got to a point where didn't have anything else to say. I didn't have anything else to say, and there was nothing, any movement in my body to do, and I went silent, like it was just like a period of just silence. But that messed up that was a whole different algorithm for what I've ever really known. But the uncomfortableness of that is the result of like the conversation today. So that's deep. You think about
That
it.
is, that is deep. That is deep. We're all born to be mediums. Like, we've all got the ability to process information. Now, again, because of indoctrination, going to school, play school, abacuses, calculators. Sorry, abacuses is probably a bit before your time, maybe. But from day one, everybody's oh, my kid's smart, my kid's clever, my kid's got a high IQ. But really, what happens if we didn't develop that side, but we developed the feeling side, because we're empaths, right? So we developed feeling and being able to read information that way.
Yeah. I think that would be I think that would change everything. Like when it comes to even the school system, I feel like it's just based on results. Like, you know how you just said, like, oh, my kid has this result, my kid has this result, and then like that's a lot of the educational system, which is kind of rigid, and I think that's not naturally even what we can process. So like that's definitely a thing. Like, just that, like, it's kind of like starting off at level 40, but you never even like started at 1. You know what I mean? Like, when you're building blocks, like, how did I get here? Like, tell me about that, as opposed to the result. That probably subconsciously really messes us up, like, as human beings.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Look, our minds are like sponges, right? And even in the sporting arena, so we take it from the educational. Now, I was a bit of a jock at school. I was a bit of a social butterfly. I played, field hockey, cricket, rugby. I would play music, and across the board, right? There's this whole competitive edge, right? And there's a grading system, and there's tournaments, and there's all this and that, and it's all just geared really to cherry pick the best, right? But in doing so, the people who maybe don't make it, right, start subconsciously doubting themselves. I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm shit. And then that self-talk, that scratch record, the monkeys in the mind, they start saying, hey, you're useless, you're a loser, you can't do anything.
That's not right. I feel like I can imagine, though, like, as a collective moving a different direction, like, even like having this conversation, I feel like it's probably so important. I just feel like the educational system probably will be like so much different. What do you think? Like maybe 10 years from now, just something about this time, like, and I just feel it in my bones, like something's gonna change, I think.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I think so. I think we're rewriting it as we talk.
Yeah. This is so cool. I feel like this is a great time to be alive. Even though so much craziness is happening.
You're so right. It is. It's a great time to be alive. Right? I think the problem is media, what people see. Right? Rather than take a step back and just appreciate, do you know what? Things are changing. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm breathing. People get engrossed with other people's shit. And we're going back to that previous conversation, and they're like, oh yeah, but Johnny, he's got a Ferrari, and Mickey, he's got a page 3 model wife, but all that shit don't matter.
Yeah.
It don't.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't matter. That's one thing I feel like I've been realizing too, is like, okay, like, I'm not my body. I'm not my body. I'm not my mom. I'm not my dad. I'm not my house that I live in. I'm not all these accolades or what job I have or anything. And then when you think about that, then you're like, okay, what am I then? You're like, what's actually going on? But most of the time, a lot of people, like, they just identify with everything outside of them. Like, you know, like, I'm this marriage, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. And then at the end, there's me. But there's no such thing as finding, like, the truest source of you at the end of all that, you know? So,
Well, yeah, it's like it's forgotten. It's been forgotten about, but bottom of the list.
yeah. The way that you said that, that's crazy. The bottom of the list.
How fucked up is that? You're
Yeah.
here, it's
Yeah.
you, it's your journey, but yet every other motherfucker is on there.
It's funny.
So my language is atrocious.
No, I don't apologize. That's just crazy, but yeah. Well, we're getting up on the hour.
Are we?
Yeah, it's just so wild because it doesn't even feel like this has been such a great conversation. Like, wow. Like, if you don't mind, I would love to email you again in some part of time, and I'm gonna ask you again to come back because I really enjoyed this conversation. Just like your input in your philosophy, and it's just inspiring for you to have for you to be at this point in time. You know what I mean? Like, for you to physically be here throughout all like I'm sure the trials and tribulations that you've had, and for me to find you somehow and to have a conversation, it's just like so cool. I just think this whole concept is incredible. I'm so happy that you're my first one. I never did this before, so yeah, thank you.
You've done so great. You've done a really good job, honestly.
Thank you.
And I think kudos to you. Kudos to you for pulling it all together. You know, you've already taken that leap. You know, and you're listening to your soul. I'm honored that I'm your first guest as well.
I'm honored
And
too.
of course, I would love to come on again and talk with you again.
Wow.
So yeah, please do it. And obviously let me know, you know, where I can post this, and I'll put this out to the people that follow me.
Oh yeah, that'd be beautiful. I definitely will, you know, for sure give you an email. Just, you know, wrapping up my appreciation, you know, towards the end. But yeah, I just want to thank you again, and yeah, I'm very, 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 very grateful for you to be here today. And I feel like I'm gonna keep rumbling on, because yeah. But thank you again.
My pleasure, Brooklyn. And keep shining, darling. Honestly, you've got a great inner light. Don't
Oh,
let anybody try and dim you, okay?
thank you. Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
And you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.